Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome back to another episode. Oh, well, welcome back if you've listened to us before. Welcome if you're new. But to an episode of Scaryish, we're the podcast where we tell you folks about different topics that we find absolutely interesting, and they all have a hint of something a little scary-ish. I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And let's get into it.
Yeah, we're going to be jumping right into it this episode. I'm pretty excited. I will say we're back together again in the same room, and we have a new setup. So this is like setup echo. I don't know what to call this one, but I'm hoping that it's... I was avoiding that. I'm hoping this does sound better for those of you who are listening, so thank you so much for bearing with us while we are in the transition phase of moving some stuff from one place to another. That said, Robin, what are you going to be covering this week?
I am going to be doing Paranormal Games 5.
I'm really excited to learn new games that I will never, ever do. So that'll be fun. I'm going to be covering Close Encounters with Serial Killers. I haven't exactly figured out how to title my topic yet, but by the time it's up, I'm sure it'll have some sort of clever thing, or it'll be exactly that, or something kind of close to it, or like Serial Killer Close Encounters.
Close Encounters of the Serial Killer Kind.
I hope I don't do that one. So
why?
Because it just seems too on the nose and too cheesy. It seems like something Zach Bagels would do, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I think I'm actually going to be going first.
What about Serial Close Calls?
Serial Close Calls? I could do that, yeah. That's going to be my topic. I want to go ahead and say Happy Lunar New Year to everyone listening on the day this releases, because we are recording this on February 1st.
Yeah, Happy Lunar New Year.
Happy Year of the Tiger. So
it's the Year of the Tiger.
I'm pretty sure 2020 was Year of the Ox. And I was
Did I make that joke too? Oh, no. Okay, cool.
I'm just saying, like, when 2020 hit, I was like, I'm an ox. So I was like, it's going to be my year. And then it just wasn't COVID. It was COVID's year. COVID was like, I don't think so, Adam. Sorry. But yeah, hopefully everyone has a great start to their Lunar New Year, and everything sets the stage for what's to come in your next 365 days around the sun. So, alright, cool. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into my topic. Very excited to be covering this because I always wonder about this stuff. Like this week I really wanted to cover this because I've mentioned this on the show before. I've talked about how sometimes there are decisions that you make in your life where you'll never really know the exact impact since you may have taken the path that avoided disaster. I've mentioned this particular instance like once or twice before, but when I used to go see one of my friends, where he lived, there was multiple ways for me to go home that were like identical in time. And I always used to think when I was turning out of the subdivision where he lived, like, I wonder which way I could go that will get me killed. I started thinking about that because I had several friends that were in car accidents, and one of them actually lost their life. Yeah, and so it's something that's always kind of been on my mind. Like, you never really know what's going to happen, and what decision you're going to make. Something could be seemingly innocuous and have everything to do with, like, your fate, you know?
Yeah.
And since we started doing this show, I've really wondered how often folks out there have had a close encounter, with some of the more notorious folks we've covered on the show and some of the ones we haven't. So, dear listener, without any more presentation, I deliver to you Serial Close Calls. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So the thing about most of the stories I'm going to tell you this episode is that, like lots of scarish topics, it could all be bullshit. We're taking the words of folks who are stating that this happened, but we have like no corroborative stories unless there's stuff where this is a person who narrowly escaped a serial killer where law enforcement had to be involved, you know? Mm-hmm. So I do have several stories for you that I'm going to go over, and even though they, you know, you have to take them with a grain of salt, they are all really creepy. So back in the 1970s, there was a serial killer called the Times Square Torso Ripper.
What?
Which I've never heard of, which I've put onto our document list that we can cover on a future episode. So this guy's specialty was killing people, in particular young ladies. And then he would dismember them, leaving just their torso, and then he would set their torso on fire. So it's very vicious. He was a sicko, for sure. During the time he was active, a man named Peter Vronsky was in New York. Peter is a journalist now, and he's actually been writing about stuff that's happened, not exactly like this, but sort of the serial killers that have come, and I don't know if this particular experience is what sparked him to that, but I kind of identify with one thing with Peter is that he was young and broke. I think a lot of us can identify with that. I think it said he was 19 at the time, and he had just moved to New York. When I graduated from college, I packed 3 bags in my car and moved to San Francisco. So I definitely know the idea of like getting to a big city and being like, okay, I don't have a lot of money. I need to find someplace cheap to stay, you know, and the place that I thought I was going to stay didn't work out. So I had to go and start looking for a hotel in the middle of the night. And that's exactly what happened to Peter in this case. So when Peter was looking around New York, he decided, New York City to be specific, he decided to choose the Travel Inn Motor Hotel to reside. He checked in, he got his key, and he went to the elevator to go to his room. And he waited for some time, but the elevator was not coming down. The light would stay lit up, and then it would just go off. And he didn't know what was happening. He thought it was kind of a foreboding sign that something was wrong. And he wasn't wrong about that. So at that exact moment, a man was upstairs holding the elevator, not letting the door close, because he was waiting to see if what he had just done had taken hold. And what he had just done was set a fire in his room. And he was waiting to see whether or not that fire was going to overtake the room or if he needed to go back in there and reset it.
Wow.
Inside that room were the bodies of 2 women he had just raped and murdered and then cut into pieces. He placed their torsos on his bed and then lit the bed on fire. So this guy comes into town for the first time. He picks a hotel to stay at, and he chooses a hotel where the torso ripper was literally in the process of disposing of bodies of people he had just murdered. So once he was satisfied that the fire had taken hold, he got into the elevator and he went down. And then he winds up getting out and passing Peter. And Peter thought, 1, this guy looks kind of off. And 2, he's carrying a garbage bag instead of luggage.
How many times have you walked past someone in the street and just been like, man, that person is off? What if they were a serial killer?
I don't think it very often, but I've definitely walked past people where I was like, oh, they're having a bad day, you know, or something's wrong, or they're dealing with something right now. And I've never attributed it to them, like, as a whole having something wrong with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. That's the creepiest thing about this. And imagine seeing a guy leaving a hotel carrying a garbage bag. I would think like, man, that dude needs a suitcase or a backpack or something. Like, why would you carry a garbage bag? In this case, he was carrying a garbage bag because it held the heads and the hands of the women he had just murdered. And he was walking out the lobby while the upstairs was starting to burst into flames. This guy eventually does get caught, like all serial killers or like most serial killers. And it was talked about that he was very reckless in the way that he wanted to completely control all of his crime scenes. One of the questions that led them to believe this was based off of this encounter, which was, why did you take the elevator once the building was on fire? Because elevators can be shut down. Why didn't you take the stairs? Because it's more safe. And what it really came down to is because he didn't want to. He wanted to take the elevator. That was the picture he had in his mind. So it's just a testament to the fact that these people have to dominate and control every aspect of what they're doing. And Peter went on to write about his experience and then write about further serial killers in his career. But man, can you imagine being brand new to a city and one of the first people you meet is a serial killer?
That's a cool story, though.
He probably went up to his room. I don't think it was on the same floor, and then eventually got evacuated because the hotel was on fire. So it's absolutely terrifying, but it's sort of the example of what I want to show you of some of these things that happen. The next story I'm going to tell you about is a lady named Jamilah King. When she was a youngster back in 1997, she was playing basketball at the park. This was something that she would frequently do. It was one of her favorite things to do. I think at the time she was 11 years old. There was something she did quite frequently and hadn't had any issue before, which was going and playing with strangers, playing at a public park with a basketball hoop. I think a lot of us have done something like this before. Some of us do this regularly for exercise. I had a house guest a few years back who asked me where the nearest basketball court was. And it was right by the house. I told him, oh, it's right over there. He's like, do you want to go? I was like, no. I'm way past like wanting to play with strangers. But for Jamilah, this was a normal thing. So she was down there playing basketball, and there was something that was weird about this particular time. She realized that a man was watching her. And she didn't look at him directly, and at least not initially from what I've read. Because I've read like secondhand accounts of what she said. I've read her Twitter thread where she talks about this. And when she realized this person was watching her, she didn't confront him directly or anything like that, but she kept an eye on him. I think that's really impressive at the age of 11 that she has that situational awareness, because I know adults who don't pay attention to their surroundings where they could be being watched
very true.
by someone
very true.
off court, and they're in the middle of doing something and they would never notice. But that was not the case with Jamilah. So after the other folks had left, the man was still there, and she went to get her ball and go to her bike. And when she got her ball, she looked up and the man was standing underneath the basket.
What?
So she decided, yeah, I'm going to gather up my stuff. I'm going to go. And when she was getting her stuff, she heard the man yell, "Hey, you're really good." She just said thanks under her breath and started moving towards her bicycle. And as the man realized that she was getting ready to go, he started talking to her more. He said stuff like, "You should keep practicing," like trying to keep her on the court. And Jamilah pulled her bike up and decided that she was just going to leave. As she started to leave, the man asked her, "Hey, do you want $1?" And as a side note, it's a really big red flag if a stranger is staring at you, tries talking to you, is weird when you're trying to like get away from them, and then offers you money. That's just such a huge red flag.
Right.
Do not go over to him. Anyway, she decided to go over to him because she wanted the $1 because she was
What?
$11 is a lot of money.
No, it's not.
Don't ever go over there for $1, by the way. So she
Not even for any amount of money.
She moves over there, okay? And when she gets to like within 5 or 10 feet from what I've read, she just moves super quick. Like picture a kid that just runs up really fast and snatches $1 out of your hand. And that's what she did to him. And she ran back to her bike and then she noped the fuck out.
Ah, yes. Grasshopper.
She just snatched that $1 from him and then
like
got out of there.
Like, pull this out of my hand with some chopsticks.
Yeah, take the jelly bean from my... you have the jelly bean. So she went home and she didn't think much on it until, a few months later, she was watching TV and she saw the man who had offered her $1 on the news. And she asked, who was it? And the man's name was Andrew Cunanan. And I think I'm saying that correctly. Some of you might know this name because when she had encountered him, he had already murdered 5 people. And the 5th of which was incredibly recent when he met her. So that person that he had just killed was actually Gianni Versace, and he had killed him in his home, I think, yeah. So this guy was very notorious. A lot of folks only connect him with that single murder of Gianni Versace, but he had killed 4 people prior to that as well.
Wow.
So he was just out talking to an 11-year-old girl, and it just seems like he was looking for his next victim, but he was thankfully caught. So that one's kind of terrifying because it's about a kid, that runs into someone that's just a monster. This next story is of Pam Preen. Pam attended Brigham Young University, which is in Utah, Provo, Utah to be specific, back when she was a youngin'. I didn't get an exact time frame on this one, but you'll probably figure out the time frame as we go along. So one day she was walking to class in the rain, and she was smart enough to have an umbrella. I can tell you that almost my entire time in college, I did not keep an umbrella in my car. I just ran in the rain. And most of the people at my campus would do the exact same thing. But if you had a friend who had an umbrella, you'd get like 5 people to crowd underneath it and try and avoid the rain.
Yeah.
So on this day, Pam noticed a man that was walking around without an umbrella. And he was dressed very, very nicely. And he was also very handsome. And they locked eyes and he started to walk over to her. And as he walked over to her, he just asked, "Hi, do you go to school here?" And she said yes. And he told her, "I've seen such good people here. I'm from out of town and I need to go downtown Provo to speak." So she realized at that time that he was kind of eyeballing her umbrella as he was talking. And he asked, "Could you walk me to my car so I don't get my suit stained in the rain?" And she said, "Sure." In her own words, she was very happy to do this. She thought it was the nicest and she thought it was the right thing to do, I guess is the best way for me to say this. So she was already thinking about doing this for the guy. He asked if she could. She 100% agreed. She had some time before her next class, so she followed the man while they made small talk. And according to her, this is a direct quote, "We walked through 3 different sections of the parking lot, each taking us farther away from the Wilkinson Center and from my class. So I asked, 'Where's your car?' He said it was just a little bit further. We walked a few more steps when all of a sudden I felt him grab the back of my coat. When he grabbed her coat, she freaked out and she started to move backwards away from him because it was an odd thing for him to do. And she kind of turned to run away, but then stopped, wondering if she was overreacting because her instinct was telling her to flee,
Yeah.
The man asked her why she backed away, stating she wasn't going to get hurt. And that's just a huge red flag.
Yeah.
If something like that happens and you're like trying to like make a pass at someone, like putting your hand familiarly on their back, and they don't like that, I totally understand, like, okay, shouldn't have done that. I apologize. I was picking up on a different vibe. But if they do that and their reaction is, everything's okay, you're safe, there's something seriously wrong right there. The man is just sort of standing there and she's standing there contemplating how she just backed away when he hears him say, "Come back and get your umbrella." And she realized he's now holding the umbrella, not her. And she just tells him, "Keep it." And she turns and she leaves the situation immediately. She gets to class and she thinks about what just happened, and she starts to feel embarrassed. She starts to feel bad that she represented her church poorly. She represented her school and her city poorly. And she's so ashamed. She decides that she's not going to report the encounter to campus security because the man hadn't really done anything wrong. He had just
stolen her umbrella.
He tried to give her the umbrella back, is what she's thinking to herself, you know? And when she looks back on it now, she states, and this is a quote, "I remember that he was very nice and extremely handsome. I keep thinking and dwelling on the fact that I probably had overreacted and left this out-of-towner with a poor image of the church and its university."
What's his name?
And she didn't think much after that about it, and just anytime she did bring it up in her mind, she just dwelled on it, about that she had made a mistake. And then later,
it was Zac Efron.
She was watching TV one day, and a news report came across that they had arrested a serial killer who had been responsible for killing a shocking number of people, including some in the area that she lived. And during the report, they put up a picture of the man that she had seen, and she immediately recognized the man's face, which was very handsome, but his eyes, because his eyes had put her on edge. And she realized, looking at his picture, that his eyes were the thing that was off about him. And of course, the name below the picture said Ted Bundy. And
nice.
She realized that she had literally been lured to the parking lot like he had done to quite a few of his victims, but her instincts had told her as soon as he touched her to get away from him. And then after that, and this was months later, you know, she decided that she was going to trust her instincts moving forward because it's basically what saved her life.
Nice.
That's the sort of thing that gives me chills thinking about, because you just never know when someone looks at you like prey. And I don't think a lot of people out there like to think of themselves as prey, but prey definitely have instincts built into them of run away from this thing, and that's exactly what happened to her.
The thing about Ted Bundy is he is not attractive. I don't get
Maybe in a suit in the rain he just looked better, but his mug shots don't do it for me at the very least.
His court case outfits, none of that, man. I'm sorry, he is not attractive.
He was attracted to me when he was Zac Efron.
Yeah, Zac Efron.
That's all I'll say.
Yep.
So, all right, the last story I'm going to tell you is that of Felicity Nightingale. So, it might be actually Nightingale, but I think it's Nightingale. So, Felicity was 22 years old when the story takes place, and the story takes place in April of 1980. So, there was this thing people used to do a lot in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s called hitchhiking. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's where you decide to go out onto the road and put your thumb out, and that's telling people, I would like to get into a car with any of you strangers, and hopefully one of you can take me near my destination. This was incredibly popular. We definitely don't do it like it used to be done. I think everyone still knows what hitchhiking is, despite the fact that I just explained it like you didn't. Mainly because we're all worried we'll get murdered if we hitchhike. We just have our murderers pick people up in their car now through apps, when we call them through Lyft or Uber or whatever.
Yeah.
But just kidding. I'm sure Uber and Lyft vet their drivers. Anyways, Felicity was a hitchhiker out in England. And to give you an idea of how frequent and common hitchhiking was, Felicity used to use hitchhiking as her primary mode of transport to get to work.
What?
Like, when they interview you, at least nowadays, they ask you, do you have reliable transportation? And she would have checked the box yes and been like, yep, my thumb, I'm thumbing it to work. I have a professor in college who stated that they hitchhiked from Seattle to New York City back in the 70s because you could just do that because people weren't afraid of it yet. But there's kind of a reason people became afraid of it. So one day in April of 1980, Felicity is out, quote, thumbing rides, which is what they used to call it. And she said that she met the strangest person she had ever met while hitchhiking. She was at a gas station where she had just been dropped off by the last person that was giving her a ride. And a man there offered to give her a ride without her even asking. So that threw up her first red flag as, this is kind of odd. But she said that he seemed sweet enough. He was nice. And he told her, hey, just throw your bag in the back of the car. And of course, quote, it's perfectly safe. Don't worry. Which is red flag number 2. If anyone tells you it's perfectly safe, don't worry, while you're doing something that's not perfectly safe, that is sketchy at best. So she told the man she wanted to keep her bag up front with her, but he kept insisting she put her bag in the back and to stop worrying. And then she heard the man mention that he was going to get a cup of tea at the gas station they were at, because gas stations are clearly very different in England in 1980. And she was relieved because she thought, okay, cool, he's going to stay. I can just find a ride with someone else. And then this man asks her, hey, what's the harm in a cup of tea? Do you want to have tea with me, basically?
Wow.
So she decides she will take him up on his offer and sit down and have a cup of tea with this stranger. And during their conversation, the man seemed nice. And she was kind of slowly deciding she was going to get a ride with him. And then he asked her about her family. And he inquired how they felt about the fact that she hitchhiked so often. And she told him that they weren't the biggest fan of it, but they allowed her the independence to make her own decisions, so they still let her do it. And he got super angry and told her, quote, that's ridiculous. They obviously don't care about you. No parent who cared about their daughter would let her hitchhike, end quote. And she thought he was really rude, but she got the vibe that he wasn't a creepy pervert. She thought he had a, quote, volcanic temper, but he certainly did not seem to have any sexual motive, end quote. So she thinks he's a jerk, but he's not a pervert. And because of that, she decides she's going to get a ride with him.
Okay.
So while riding with him, he keeps telling her she should come meet his wife. He thinks that they would really, really hit it off. And this is kind of a weird thing because he was supposed to just be driving her for like 15, 20 minutes, apparently. The other thing he starts doing is he starts telling her that they're taking a very specific route to go where she's going, but she knows they are going the wrong way. And he keeps insisting that they're going the right way and that she should really meet his wife. And eventually she points out that she knows they are going the wrong way. And the man stated that he needed to go see a friend, but he would take her to her destination afterwards.
That's bullshit.
So,
that's absolute bullshit.
This is a bunch of red flags, and he's getting angrier and angrier as she's starting to point out, like, I know that something's wrong here. So
open the door and jump out. She
agrees to travel with him and even to go see his friend with him and then go along with him after that as well so that she can get to where she's going because she doesn't really have an option at this point because he's so angry. She's really, really worried and they're traveling really quickly. But when they stop, she grabs her bag and starts flagging down another ride. She's able to find another driver to pick her up very quickly, which is ironic because the commonality of hitchhiking back in 1980, in April of 1980, is what saves her life. Because someone else sees her hitchhiking and they think, I will pick her up because I'm not afraid of hitchhikers yet. She's able to get in this car and get away from this dude who was really, really creeping her out. And for years after that, she recalled how scary and odd the whole thing was. And it takes 14 years, but 14 years later, she sees the face of the man who she had gotten a ride with that night on the news. And his name was Fred West. I have never heard of Fred West.
Oh, so it's a couple. So Fred West and his wife, they, as a team, murdered a bunch of people.
Fred West and his wife, Rosemary, were taken into custody in 1994, I believe it is. Between 1967 and 1987, they had tortured, raped, and murdered 10 women that were found. They
were buried in their yard or whatever.
They had acquired a bunch of them via hitchhiking. And she didn't know how close she was to being the 11th official victim.
A lot of the time, his wife would be in the car and people would be like, oh,
it's a couple, super disarmed.
Safe. Yeah.
And she just did not realize that she was sitting next to this person who at that point had absolutely already done those things to multiple people before. So you just really never know how close you come sometimes to a monster. And these folks and others that I just didn't cover definitely have come uncomfortably close to them. We have a friend that I know through a few different people that stated that I think their husband or their brother ran into Charlie Manson. And I just really want to hear that story. I haven't heard it yet, but if I hear it and they give me permission, I would love to share it because that's another reason why I thought of this particular topic is I was thinking, man, I really need to talk to so-and-so because I really want to hear that story. And there really is no telling what actions you're going to take that might make you cross paths with someone like this. Just always exercise caution. Always be safe. Do not ignore red flags. I think the ladies over at My Favorite Murder get it absolutely right. Stay sexy. Don't get murdered. Fuck politeness. Like, that is exactly the mindset you need to have, especially in a day and age where it just seems like there's more out there than there used to be.
Yeah.
So,
hitchhiking and stuff like that is just...
I would never even consider hitchhiking.
I mean...
Even if my car broke down, I'd be like, I will walk.
I did it when I was in high school once. But other than that, I don't think I've done it since. I could have gotten murdered, but she had a baby in the backseat. I don't think she was going to murder us.
The baby bandit?
What?
I'm kidding. I just made that up.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I will say I've broken down before in the middle of nowhere, like a 1-lane road, no street lights, and I just walked to a gas station and let all the cars pass me. Some of them would honk at me. Got to the gas station.
They're like, nice ass.
And I was like, I need to buy a gas can to walk back to my car. And I had it in my mind, like, if this guy offers to give me a ride, I'm telling him no. Like, I'm not getting in a car with anyone I don't know. I'm a big dude. And I'm like, I don't want to have to get into the position where I have to defend myself and prevent myself from being murdered. And I swear to you, when I was going through that in my mind, what the guy told me was like, just so you know, we don't refund. We don't take back gas cans because so many people hoof it, get the gas, walk back, fill their car up, then drive back to the gas station to return gas can that has like dripping gasoline still in it.
How do you let your car run out of gas?
You're stupid and poor, basically, is what it comes down to. So that's been my experience with hitchhiking, and this is just so creepy, this last story. But anyways, everyone stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. And that, my spooky friend, is Serial Killer Close Calls.
Nice.
Thank you. All right, so before we move into Robin's topic, we are going to take a quick commercial break.
All right, so this week I'm going back to something that I haven't covered in ages because Adam stole my segment last time.
I did.
And that is Paranormal Games. So I know a lot of you out there enjoy hearing about these because they're just interesting. They're not necessarily real.
Were you inspired by my recent creepypasta that was like combining every paranormal game ever?
Yeah.
I love that creepypasta so much. It made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, I really enjoy hearing about all these or reading about these. And some of them really do freak me out. But even though they're probably fictional and they don't actually result in anything that I know of because I'll never actually try it, it's still scary. That being said, I'll put a disclaimer here. No one should go and try these themselves, I don't think. We're not telling anyone to. These are just games that apparently exist. We're just telling you that they exist. And then that being said, if you do happen to go out and attempt one of these games, please record them, post it, tag us in it. Adam would definitely say go Facebook Live.
Yes. Here's the thing. Every time we do paranormal games, what I think of is Jumanji. Like, if you found the Jumanji board buried on a beach or something like that, would you play it? For me, the answer is no, not at all. But if someone did play it, I would absolutely want to know what happened. So I don't encourage you to play Jumanji, but if you decide to free Robin Williams, then just let me know how it goes.
So the first game that I'm going to talk about this episode is called The Picture Game. I've never heard of this one before. I couldn't tell you the actual definitive origin of this game as it has been posted all over the internet in various places and told by different people in different ways. It's certainly a game that's been conjured up in more recent times as the type of tech needed for this kind of game wasn't made available until the 1950s or something around there. We're not going to be going back to the 1800s or ancient times or things like that because this is the picture game. You didn't take pictures back then.
They say like 1880s. The picture game takes 30 seconds to take each picture.
Yeah. Spirit photography became more prominent in the late 19th century, and then during the time when cameras kind of started being more widely used, there were a number of cultures and religions that began believing that these cameras were capable of stealing their souls. I grew up being taught that 19th and very early 20th century Native Americans believed that having a photo taken of you would steal your soul. This technology was new, right? And it seemed like magic. How does this technology take your photograph and have you print it out, imagine if someone flashes a light at you and then your image just appears on this paper.
It's like a piece of you is frozen forever.
Right. It's incredible. It's the technological advances throughout history are absolutely incredible. But when you learn about it, it's like, that's fucking magic. There's no way. Now, for us these days, we have like the instant gratification of digital photography. You have a freaking phone in your hand that has camera on it. I still don't understand the process of manual photo development. I think it's absolutely fascinating. even when you print a picture from your computer to your printer, it's freaking nuts. I don't know. It's
right.
cool.
It's like this cord has the picture travel through it? How neat.
Isn't that crazy? It's very... computers are cool. Anyway, so for the picture game, it is a way to take photos of ghosts or like of the other side or supernatural things.
Well, it's supposed to be. It's not like confirmed 100%.
No. So I guess it's supposedly a better way to guarantee the photo of ghosts, that you'll actually do it, because people take pictures of ghosts every day. Like, so lame. It's just like people taking pictures of you know how people are like, oh, you don't see the ghost in the photo, and then you zoom in.
Dust mites. All that stuff.
So, this game requires at least 2 people in order to play. The more people that join in the game, the better. Things that you'll need to prepare to win the game, or not win the game, begin the game. You win the game if you take a photo of a ghost, I guess. Prepare a quiet room. You'll need a string or a rope, something similar to that you can actually tie. A cord, other words for a rope. It should be long enough to make a circle when tying the ends together. And you need scissors or a knife, something sharp for cutting. Each player needs their own small mirror. No sharing mirrors. Everyone needs their own. You'll need a drinking glass and some type of beverage. So this should be preferably alcoholic of some type. Some sources say wine is the recommended option. The main component of this game is the camera. So you need an actual camera with flash capabilities.
I think I wouldn't recommend wine. You know what I'd recommend?
What?
Spirits.
God damn it. So you can't use your camera phone. It's not what you need here. You need like an actual like DSLR or like one of those Kodak flash cameras or something.
Oh, like the old ones? Like the ones where like rant between each roll?
You just can't use your camera phone. It just has to have flash, whatever camera you use. But you
Someone needs to make an app for this.
Yeah, but your camera phone can't work.
Okay.
That's not a thing. You can't use your camera phone. I'll reiterate, you can't use your camera phone. So an app for it will not work.
We'll just update the picture game already. Jeez, if they have spirit boxes on everyone's phone now, I mean, can't you do it?
I hate that.
So cheesy.
I hate that. If you are like, oh my god, this spirit box did crazy shit, it's because it's an app on your phone and people input words and they only input scary words. Okay. So you can set a point person for the game. So one person can do all the setup. They can do all the speaking parts to start, and they start each step of the game. If you want, it's up to you. Do what you want with your body. Now, so begin. You get everything prepared around midnight, and by around midnight, I mean before midnight, because you're going to start at midnight.
That's right, procrastinators. You actually have to prepare this early.
At midnight, you tie the string, rope, cord, other words for rope, whatever you grabbed, into a circle and tying a knot at the end. You place your newly crafted circle into the center of your quiet room. You take your drinking glass and place that into the middle of said circle, and then you fill the glass with your prepared beverage of choice. Each player then sits in a circle around the rope circle. No one should ever step into the center of the rope circle at any point of this for any reason whatsoever. Each player then takes their mirror and then places it face up in front of them so that the mirror's reflective side should be facing the ceiling. Then you can turn off the lights. So once the lights are off, you start inviting the spirits in. Everyone closes their eyes and holds their hands in the circle. One after the other, each player must say the phrase, "I trust you." Not in unison, but like one says it, and then the next says it, and the next says it. That's the definition of one after the other. Once that is done in unison, everyone repeats, "The door is open. Please come in."
These are just like, this one's creepy as fuck. Some of them are silly, but this one's terrifying.
So you say that 3 times. In unison. Everyone says that. After the 3rd time, then the participants can open their eyes. Once the invitation's been put out there, it's time for everyone to start taking pictures. So one participant takes the camera, says, "I caught you," and then points the camera towards the middle of the circle and then takes one picture. And so then you pass the camera down to the next participant in the circle. And if you're using a digital camera, you don't preview the photo. Don't look at the photo previews or anything on your digital camera. Just take a photo, pass it on. This process goes on until each player has taken 3 photos, meaning the camera gets passed around the circle for 3 rounds. After the camera's been passed around the appropriate amount, you put the camera down. It's important to note that if any participants begin to cry or feel nauseous, do not, and I mean do not, allow these players to take any pictures. Instead, you just pass the camera around them to the next unaffected player. So just like when using a Ouija board, you also need to say goodbye at the end of the game. Because you're inviting something in, you need to tell it, like, get out. All players must close their eyes and repeat in unison, "It is time to go home," 3 times. Then, each player turns their respective mirror upside down so that the reflective surface is flipped to face the floor. You can now turn on the lights. Hopefully the spirits have left. I don't know. There's no way to tell if the spirits have left or not, right? Using the sharp blade or scissors or whatever you prepared, cut the circle that you created. Take the drinking glass that you filled with the liquid and go empty it. Don't drink it. Pour it out into or onto an empty patch of dirt or something outside. Now you can look through all these photos that you took. And the reason why it's better to have more people is probably to be able to take more photos.
That makes
right?
sense, yeah.
More opportunities to capture all these little ghosties or big ghosties, whatever you capture in the photo. Imagine having one just like their face right there in front of the camera. That'd be scary.
What if they're doing something embarrassing like, is this a ghost picking its nose?
I'd be down with that. It's like some Casper shit.
Wow.
Theoretically, if done properly, if you look closely, you should be able to see spirits in the photos. If I actually saw something, I would definitely poop my pants. But I would never actually play this game myself, you know.
I was going to say you left out one specific thing you need for this game, and that's apparently diapers. So,
some red flags to keep in mind that if triggered mean you need to stop the game immediately are if one or more players begins to act uncharacteristically. So if they're just not themselves, or if they state that they're scared, then you skip straight to the goodbye part of the game. You want to prevent any possibility of the spirits taking advantage of the weakest link. So if you're not mentally strong, it'll take you over and they don't want you to play that, right? If one of these individuals happens to take a picture, like one of the affected people takes a picture, do not continue with the game and destroy the camera. So don't look at it. Don't look at any of the photos they took. Maybe don't use your $1,000 DSLR or something to take these photos, because if you have to destroy your camera, you're going to be real fucking sad. But yeah, that's the picture game.
That one's really fucking creepy. Like, that's the creepiest one we've had in a while, so.
I mean, I think the creepier one is like the Three Kings one. That one's scary to me.
That one's also really scary.
And that's in Paranormal Games 1. And we're on Paranormal Games 5. So, you know. All right. So the next one is kind of short and sweet. Not sweet as in, oh, that's so sweet. It's just definitely succinct and to the point. This one is called Kokuri-San, and it's like a Japanese Ouija board, kind of, sort of. Supposedly, the most horrifying versions of them. I don't believe that. It kind of seems really silly. Being performed mostly by Japanese school children makes the idea a little less scary. This is a game that involves summoning a spirit in order to get answers to questions about the future. So the origins of the game had to do with, way back in the day, you would have 3 bamboo sticks that were tied together into a tripod, and then the lid of a rice container would be placed on top, and then several people will put their hands on the container lid and then ask questions, and then the answer would be based on whichever way the lid tilted, or if the legs moved, or something like that. So the name Kokuri is like an onomatopoeic word. Onomatopoeia is when like a word is a sound, like meow.
Gotcha.
I'm pretty sure
I trust you on this one because I do not know, and I should.
Oh, okay. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So I'll just put that out there. Don't at me. But yeah, so it's the word that kind of describes the tilting and nodding motions of the lid on the thing.
Kokuri. Yeah, that checks out.
Oh my god. I don't know, man. So these days, it's more homemade and kind of used like a Ouija board. It's known more as the Western Kokuri because of how you're using words and letters and stuff like that. Or not words, but letters and things. Apparently, over time, the characters for Ko, Ku, and Ri were written with kanji representing fox, tengu, and tanuki. So it kind of leads people to believe that the spirit you're calling is like a fox, dog, raccoon spirit, which I think is cute. This game does require a few things, not a lot. You just need a couple people, a sheet of paper, a pen, and a coin. So it's pretty simple. Maybe 2 pens, because you need red and black ink. So, you draw a torii gate at the top of the page in red ink, and a torii gate looks like the pi symbol. Have you ever seen a torii gate?
Like, I think so, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We walk through them all the time, everywhere. It's, if you've never seen one, kind of like the Stonehenge structures, but they're really big, really pretty.
The pi symbol's a really good way to describe it, just without like the curve to it. It's sort of like got like just a straight across.
Yeah, but they're really nice. You find them in front of temples in Japan, all over, for the Shinto ones anyway. So you draw that at the top, and then you write sure, like yes. So you write yes and no on either side of the torii gate. And below the gate, you write a row of numbers, 0 through 9. You use black ink. And under that, 3 rows of letters A through Z. Once you have that set up, open a window or a door in your room. So this will allow the spirit to enter the room. And the torii gate on your page is like the torii gates at the shrines in Japan. And it represents the gateway through which the spirit will come and go. So if you can't open it and keep it open, you have to find a different location in which you can leave that door or window open. Then you place the coin at the torii gate that you drew, probably like right in the middle, because you know how a torii gate looks, you stick it in the middle there.
Right.
Everyone puts their index fingers on the coin, then everyone calls out to the spirits, Kokuri-San, Kokuri-San, if you're here, please move this coin. And if there are people that can't hold their index finger on the coin comfortably, they should not play.
There should be a low number of people because coins are fairly small, fingers are kind of big. I think I could fit, like, I take up 25% of a coin with my finger because I have a very fat finger.
If the coin does not move, the spirit has not yet shown up, so you don't keep going. You take your hands off of the coin, close the door or window, and then you can try again later on. But don't keep going with that particular round. If the coin moves to no, then the spirit does not want to play. And it's either that or that you've reached something that is not who you're looking for. And that means you must not continue. You apologize for being a nuisance and then say goodbye. You take your fingers from the coin, close the window, and then destroy the paper as soon as possible and burn it. If it does move to yes, then you can continue on with the game. So at this point, you ask whatever question you want answered, and the coin will move to spell out the solution. And you begin each question by saying the name 3 times. Twice, not 3 times. 3 times, my lady. You say her name twice. So if after asking these questions and there is no answer, it may mean that the spirit does not know or doesn't want to answer. So in order to end the connection, you ask the spirit to leave by saying, Kokuri-san, Kokuri-san, please return home. And then the coin should go to yes and then return to the red torii gate that you drew at the top. When you're sure that the spirit has left, you rip up the paper and then you burn it. You also need to spend the coin before the day is over. So whatever you spend the money on, you can't hold possession of that item. You have to get rid of it.
So you can't buy like food because you're going to put that in you and then retain its nutrients.
I don't know, because then you expel the rest of the food out.
But you only expel the waste, not the stuff your body absorbed.
True.
Don't buy food with it.
This spirit can trick and lie to you, of course. It's never going to be completely honest if it doesn't want to. And then there's a different version. So there's a version called Mr. Kokuri. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe they're the same because it would be Kokuri-San too, because it doesn't matter what, even if it's a woman, you say Kokuri-San. If it's a guy, you also say Kokuri-San. So this one's Mr. This one requires that you put together a paper that has the Japanese hiragana alphabet on it instead of the English alphabet. Everything else gets set up the same. Then when you invite the spirit, this one is also Kokuri-san. So you say, Kokuri-san, Kokuri-san, please come see us. And when you have come, please say yes. Theoretically, the coin will move to yes, noting his arrival. You ask him whatever you want, then the coin returns to the Tori for each question. So when saying goodbye, you add thank you very much, things like that. Some warnings about this version is that you don't do it alone or you don't do it as a joke. You have to take it seriously and to not be afraid, and don't play the game if you're under any type of weakened mental state. Because it seems
that would mean that I'm literally never allowed to play this game.
Oh my god. So it seems it's important when dealing with any of these spirit games, because that's what was mentioned in the picture game as well. You don't want the spirit to be able to possess the players. So if you play alone, it could possess you, and then you have no one there to help you return to your true self afterwards. If you have a weakened mental state, then you're easier to possess, supposedly. I don't know. I'm not a spirit. If the spirit isn't leaving at the end of the game, keep repeating the ending statement until it does. You'll know if the spirit hasn't left because the coin doesn't move, or it moves to no, or it moves to yes, but then doesn't go back to the Tori gate at the top. So don't stop the game until the spirit leaves. It must finish on the Tori, so the coin has to go back to the Tori gate at the top. If you play again later, you use a new paper and coin, but you can't play this game very often because the more you play, you open the door, right? You open this door to this other world. The more you play, the harder it is to close that door. So just a forewarning for anybody who attempts this. Not that we're recommending anybody attempt
Again, we
this.
don't recommend you attempt this at all.
But yeah. So that is Paranormal Games 5. Hope you folks enjoyed those too.
Those are really, really good, Robin.
Thanks.
Solid job. I think that's better than the one I did, but I enjoyed the one I did as well.
Cool.
Yeah, you've taken this topic back over, established your dominance with it, and I salute you. I tip my cap to you. You are the alpha, so good stuff.
I was like, maybe I should pee on you. Assert my dominance.
Not necessary. Great. That was really awesome. Those were fascinating. So thank you so much for telling us how to play them so we can never do that. Again, we don't recommend you play them. If any of you have played them, feel free to reach out to us and let us know by emailing storytime@scaryish.com. Anyone that has a story, in fact, that they would like us to share on the Storytime episodes, could be paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, extraterrestrial, or true crime. We would love to hear it. And again, email storytime@scaryish.com. You can also go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us. Or you can hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod. Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Don't forget we have a Discord. We have almost 400 people in that Discord now, and it's really awesome to see everyone talking to each other, supporting each other, telling each other stories, and we can join in. It's really, really sweet. So if you want to join in with that, go to scaryish.com. There's a ticker, and at the top it says join us in Discord. Click that. There should be a link in there, and it'll bring you directly to our Discord server. So it's pretty amazing to see the community that exists around Scaryish, and we sincerely appreciate all of you for it. Robin, for folks out there in the community who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. At $1, you get ad-free episodes, so that's kind of cute. And then if you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scaryish-podcast. And anything you folks are willing to donate is we're so incredibly thankful. It keeps us going.
It indeed does. So thank you so much, Robin, for your topic. It was amazing.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank
you for your topic.
You're welcome, Adam. You're welcome, Robin.
Cool.
Appreciate you. And thank you to everyone who listened. We appreciate you beyond words. So that is everything we have for this episode of Scaryish. Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out?
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.